Today we're going to talk about the 8 reasons why someone might not like you and what you can do to change all of that. Hi, how are you? Welcome. Welcome to the Etiquette and Protocol channel. I'm Juliana Santiago, etiquette consultant and co-founder of the Institute of Etiquette and Protocol, the Institute of Etiquette and Protocol. And in today's video, we're going to talk a little about the reasons why people might see you as an annoying person. And what can you do? What should you avoid so that people don't interpret you that way? You know, when we have a list of people we consider annoying, so what can you do to avoid being on that list? What can you change? What kind of behavior can you change to always create a positive impression and make sure you don't end up on that list of people? The first thing that makes you be considered an annoying person is your excessive involvement in gossip and rumors. So if you have the habit of always sharing news and updates, also sharing them with that gossipy tone is not good for your image either. People may end up seeing you in a negative way and you could lose your credibility. Of course, news or updates can be shared, but this should be done in a light way, without making it seem like it's really something that could harm someone, you know? So be very careful with that so you're not seen as someone who's always talking about other people's lives. That can be extremely negative for you. Nowadays, people have the habit of sharing gossip. We see news about celebrities, we want to share it, but we need to be a little more careful. When we gossip and spread rumors about people who are close to us or even people who work with us, we know that many times it can be extremely harmful to some people. And if you take part in this and are found out as the person who started a rumor or gossip, it can be very negative for you. The second point is being a jealous person. Nowadays, especially in adulthood, there's no room for jealousy. So if you're a jealous adult, be very careful because people will naturally distance themselves from you. People in general already need to pay attention to many things in their lives on a personal level. So for example, each person has their own family. Many people have their children, grandchildren, so there are already a lot of people they need to take care of and pay attention to. So if you demand attention from other people, it makes you come across as a needy person, someone who doesn't give space to others, right? You smother the other person a lot and they may feel uncomfortable with you, and this ends up making the person distance themselves from you. So it's important for us to be very careful, especially in friendships, right? Avoid creating the toxic friendships often discussed online. But do you have the habit of always demanding presence, attention, affection, and a lot of care from your friends? Because many times you who demand too much often forget what you can actually do for the other person. So we should never be there demanding attention from other people or playing games either. Throwing that in someone else's face isn't good either. Another thing you need to check is if you have the habit of talking too much. Of course, not talking can be a problem because people like to be around those who keep the conversation going, right? Is there anything worse than talking to someone and they only answer with yes, no, short phrases? That person who doesn't keep a conversation going, that's not interesting. So whenever someone talks to you there, it's interesting that even in a brief conversation, in an everyday topic, you can find ways to keep the conversation going. Especially when we're at a party, in a social situation, at a dinner, at lunch, or in an environment where you don't know many people. If you have the ability to keep a conversation going, that's very positive for you. For example, recently here in my city, the weather has been very dry. So if you have the knowledge to understand why the weather is dry, what impact does that have? And you bring up relevant topics and subjects to keep the conversation going, that makes you a more interesting person. But what I want to point out here is much more than just knowing how to talk about a topic. It's about you talking too much about the same topic or even not letting other people speak. So, you know that person who in a group conversation, you only hear their voice? You can't participate, you can't introduce topics. That person knows everything. She knows about every subject. She knows about every topic. So, we need to be careful not to be the only person who talks in a group. So, it is important, yes, to stay active in a conversation group, to have knowledge about current topics to talk about, especially in environments where you are not close to people or don't know many people. This will allow you to take part in conversations in a more active and present way, and people will also notice you. But you can't be the only person who talks in that group. So it's important for you to listen to other points of view and give others the opportunity to speak. Always remember that life isn't a lecture, so you shouldn't be the only person talking the whole time. You know, some people have the habit of lecturing all the time and don't let others speak as well. Another thing that, besides making you seem annoying, really discredits you is being a liar. So if you have the habit of embellishing topics, telling stories, adding things that aren't true, stop doing that immediately, because sooner or later you'll be found out and then people will see that you're someone who lies. And there are people who have the habit of lying. Even in very small situations, for example, you heard about something at your work. And then you go to the person and say, "Hi, Juliana, Maria told me that you're leaving the company." Did Maria tell you, or do you already know that I'm leaving the company? So if you know, it's better for you to be honest. Look, I already know that you're leaving the company, so it's much better for you to be honest. For example, just say you know they're leaving the company. So don't try to make up excuses, stories, or involve other people in other matters, because that can really hurt you. Another thing that also puts you on the list of annoying people is if you're a negative and bitter person. You know, that person who's always in a bad mood, that person who's in a really nice environment at a super fun party, but she's always complaining about something, complaining about some situation, or talking badly about someone too. So be very careful with the kind of comments you make in places like parties, events, or meetings. It's not a good idea for you to point out negative things like, for example, wow, this wedding party. It's great, but the bride, her hairstyle doesn't look good. Wow, but the bride's mother's makeup is inappropriate. So be careful. If you're someone who's always adding negativity to what you say, you always want to point out something negative. Whether it's about someone or some situation you've experienced, that can really harm you a lot. Another factor is also not being happy, not for other people's achievements. Is there anything worse than, for example, you going up to someone? "I bought a car," and then your friend says, "Oh, for you it's really easy." Not if the person comes up to you and says they bought a car, even if you want to have a new car. Feel the desire for a new car, be happy for others, and show your happiness. So say, "Wow, that's amazing. How wonderful that you're getting a new car. Are you excited?" "Wow, you nailed it. You nailed it. What a wonderful achievement." We need to be happy for other people's achievements. And we should never put our own dreams, the ones we haven't achieved, ahead of someone else's achievement. You know, let me explain this better. For example, you have a dream of going to Disney, and then someone comes to you and says, "I'm going to Disney." Then you say, "Oh, but it's really expensive to go to Disney." How are you going to have the courage to pay to be able to take that kind of trip? With that money, I'd never go to Disney. Instead of saying, "Wow, it's amazing that you're going to Disney. I'm sure it's going to be a wonderful trip. I've never been, but I've seen photos and everyone who visits loves it. It seems enchanting." Uplift other people, celebrate other people's achievements. And being positive and being someone who celebrates with others makes people feel a little empathy, a huge affection for you. We need to show people that we truly care about their achievements. And if you can provide that for someone, right? When someone feels that you're happy about something they achieved, they'll put you in a very special place in their heart. You know, that place of a friend, that place of someone attentive, with good energy, with charisma, with affection. This will benefit you and is easy to do because people, they tend to share more joys than sorrows. So whether it's on social media or even when we meet someone, it's much easier for a person to talk about something positive they're going to experience or some experience they've had or are having. So celebrate with other people. This will make people see you as a very special person. Another point is, if you are someone who constantly complains, then people arrange a meeting, right? Friends arrange a meeting. You complain about the day, complain about the time, complain about the place, complain about the plans. You're never happy with anything. Of course, you should express your needs and your wishes, but when it comes to living together and being part of society, we need to understand that many times things won't turn out the way we want. They won't happen the way we want, and we need to respect that. And that's okay, right? Many times we won't have control to change everything. Of course, if, for example, your friends are planning to go out somewhere, everyone wants to go, but you've been and know it's bad. Then you'll say, no, guys, I've already been to that place and I didn't like it. I don't approve. It's not interesting for us, but if you want, I'll go again and give it another chance. So this more positive communication will really help you get rid of that image of being an annoying person, because nobody can stand someone who complains all the time. And if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like this content and share this video with other people who also need to know what it takes not to be annoying. Subscribe to the channel and also follow me on social media, especially on Instagram. I'm always there to answer questions and clear up doubts. I want you here often, so remember to follow our channel. And what also makes you be considered an extremely annoying person is being jealous and overly competitive. I think that kind of wraps up everything I talked about here. People don't like to see that you're always competitive, always competing with them in some way. For example, someone tells you they're going to travel and you say you're going to travel too. And then your trip tends to be better, because the way you tell it, the way you express yourself makes the other person's trip seem less important. And your trip becomes the best trip, the best outing there is. Be careful with that. For example, someone tells you, wow, I have a trip to Disney planned. Then you say, wow, Disney is so childish, isn't it? I'm at a point where I enjoy traveling to Europe, Japan, and experiencing different cultures. So that makes you create a totally unnecessary competition in a friendship, in a relationship. It makes people see you as an annoying person and also as a jealous person, because it seems like you're never happy for what the other person achieved, for what the other person has. And whatever happens in your life is always better. And this list, the list of things that make you be considered an annoying person, it can be an endless list, right? Comment here what you think really makes a person annoying. Comment here because I really want to know. And if you want to know some behavior practices related to social etiquette, I've already made a video talking about some mistakes and how you can correct certain social etiquette behavior practices. I'll leave it here on the side for you to watch next. I'll stop here. Thank you very much and see you next time.